Live. David's here with me, and I should give you. I have multiple cameras going on here, so I need to figure out which one I'm talking to. I need to give you credit for this conversation here because you've been politely asking me to do this for a long time. I've just been so busy, and I'm really glad to be able to do it with you tonight. So, if anybody has not seen David from Shellvedge, you've been putting out incredible videos on YouTube, is where I see you, but I think you're doing Instagram stuff too. But it's amazing every time I see, I think you've been doing a really good job with your titles because every time I see one of the titles, I really want to click on it. So you've been putting out some good stuff recently, man. You want to introduce yourself to everybody in the, if people are coming to hang out and people seeing this later, maybe give yourself a little plug.
Everything kind of started out on Instagram. And that's kind of like where I guess like my largest account is. But there was no like intention behind it. It was just something how I was trying to kind of join part of the shoe community like 4 years ago, and then somehow it like just kind of turned into something it never was really like supposed to be. And
you've gone pretty deep on it also.
Yeah, that like learning curve went like very sharp from like Allen Edmonds and like Alden to like full like bespoke shoes within like a couple of months. It was
so what's your most recent pickup?
I actually like I wore these today, but I was actually like kept them next to me here because this is a color 6 penny loafer.
Oh, cool.
And
man, that's a pretty rare color.
Yeah, it's the first like pair of color 6 I've ever had and ever like seen in person, and it's possibly like my favorite color now.
That's so cool.
It's like a perfect balance between like the darker reds and hues from color 8, but you can actually like see the color. Whereas like color 8 is sometimes like too
a little dark.
Too much, yeah.
Yeah,
there's color 4 is a bit too like bold at times, I think.
Oh, I like color 4. There's kind of a story there that I'll give you. So originally, color 4 was the original Cordovan color for floor shine back in like the early 1900s. So I didn't know that. I thought it was always color 8 was sort of the hit, but it was really color 4 that was the standard like first floor shine. It was black and color 4. So the original was color 4, then they did color 8. There's also color 2. Those were the three that, as far as I'm aware, those are the main like numbered colors. And then I think I don't know how much they'd want me to say this, but it seems like other colors tend to be like a little bit more accidental, or it's a fun story, but it was like a second thought as opposed to the 2, 4, and 8. Like the color 16 is a thing, which is it's basically black.
It's almost black, right?
Yeah. And then there's color 6, like you're saying. I've never really seen much color 6. So that's pretty cool that you have a pair. But anyway, the idea was, I think it was either half like the dye mixture or half the amount of coats that those colors originally came about. So color 4, they doubled it and got darker and more burgundy. That was color 8. And they halved it and got color 2, which is now known as garnet. And I think other brands have called it like chili and
is ruby?
Ruby is another. I think Allen Edmonds calls it ruby.
Okay.
But that is now the tannery calls it garnet. And the reason they call it garnet and not color 2 is because their dye mixtures changed and they wanted to be more transparent with their color naming. So they, instead of continuing to call it color 2 when they knew it wasn't the same dye mixture, they rebranded it as garnet for that reason. They wanted to be like really transparent. But then like shoe brands can name it whatever they want,
Yeah, that is like a whole nother topic of the colors, like the names of the colors. And I think like at least earlier on, because it was like more difficult to get anything besides like color 8 and like black shell, you get really attracted to like the chase of saying like you have like a pair of whiskey or a pair of cigar or whatever whatever that like color is that you want. But for me, like I don't even really care too much about like what it's called now. It's just like what do I want, like a darker brown, like a mid brown with like red hues, or like more like orangish hues, like.
Yeah,
And
man.
that's
Have you worn
some
any
of it could be
really
a shell.
light shades like a whiskey or natural?
Yeah, I have. It's weird. Like whiskey, the pair of whiskey that I have is lighter than the natural ones that I have.
Whoa, okay.
It seems like it is, but it could just be like the richness in the color,
Hmm.
because like it seems like it's flatter.
When I did an interview with Brett Klein from uh, Alden,
Yeah.
I was explaining to him, and I had to take down that. They asked me to take the video down. I guess
Really?
Alden like wants like nobody to talk about Alden except their customers or the retail store. So they politely asked me to remove it, even though like Brett got permission to whatever. I took it down. It's fine. But in that conversation, I was talking to him about the natural shell cordovan plain toe Viberg boots that I have. And
Yeah.
plain toe is like a critical distinction in that, because I had noticed that I felt awkward. I still feel awkward wearing the natural shell plain toes with basically everything. And
Wow.
I was asking Brett what, like, why I felt that, and if he had ever felt that, and I'll ask you too. But he explained to me that natural or the lighter colors need like a little something extra, like a little bit of perfs or like a cap toe or something else. And I think he might be right, but I just noticed it feels like too much, like it's overpowering like everything else I wear. And I'm not terribly stylish, but it just seemed
Yeah.
like those light color like plain toe boots were too intense.
Yeah. It's a really good point, because and I'm trying to look over it if I have any like examples of shoes over there right now. But like I love the lighter colors. Um, but when you're like the lighter colors are like great in theory and just kind of in like observing them, but I think in practice it becomes very like complex when if you're doing like a very like light colored like wallet, like that thing is, it's gonna like patina great, but if you're doing it for something that's gonna be like very like dressy and something that's like kind of going into like a work, like a very business kind of formal like work setting, like it's not gonna maintain that like clean aesthetic for very long. And the same thing with like shoes, where if you get like a whiskey pair of like loafers and you wear them like a normal pair of shoes, like it's going to develop a unique patina, and you can't really necessarily control that as much as if you got like a pair of dark brown.
Like
And
keeping them
that would,
clean, you mean, or
yeah, just I think like the like shell has a unique patina that like I really like about it, but it has um it can be very bold and kind of like in your face, like on the when it's on the lighter side.
yeah,
And
it
the
kind of
darker
takes over
colors,
everything.
yeah, the darker colors I think hide it a little bit better. But um yeah, the I think the natural, so natural not so much. Amaretto is definitely a very um
It's
like
pretty
I love
loud.
the color, but it's a loud it's like a color that like works great with like denim. But I think like if you were to wear that with like a pair of like chinos or trousers like in the office, like they would like stand out very, very like distinctly. Which maybe like that's exactly what you're going for, but I think it's uh it's just easier to sometimes kind of go on the mid brown to like darker brown
Yeah,
scale on the
darker
spectrum.
seems to be. There's two things I've observed is darker colors seem to be easier to wear with most things, but also like browns, something like color 8 cigar, even like a color 6 that you showed me. I think people when they buy a leather shoe or leather good, something with that they want that is leather, I think they imagine leather to be brown. So we actually notice, if we sell something that's like a blue leather, people get like kind of turned off because it doesn't, in their brains, it doesn't really make sense. Like, how can you have a blue leather? That's not possible. But that,
Yeah.
there's something to that, I think. And also, Mike K is in the chat here, brought up like a good observation. He says, I wonder if it feels less overwhelming to someone less familiar with shell maybe we know what to look for and can see it better on light colors, which is a good point. Like we're pretty obsessed with this particular specific leather.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think there's like two sides to it where, um, if we were to put like a high shine on like our shoe and we scuff it going into like the office or just like getting into our car, like we're going to like be like that sucked. Like now, but no one else is really going to see that. On the flip side, I think like if you're buying like $1,000 pair of shoes, like you want to be like comfortable wearing them, and whether somebody else like notices it as being like bold or not, like if you're not like comfortable wearing them, then it's doesn't really matter like what most other people kind of like think, unless that's going to make you comfortable wearing them, is having them say that they look good,
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm actually very I'm not very fashion forward sort of ever. So I'm maybe not the right person to comment on it, but I don't want necessarily people to like notice my stuff. I kind of like it when like my wife, before we were married or even really were hanging out, I wore some Alden Color 8 Shell Cordovan long wings to a wedding. It was like a mutual friend's wedding. And we were hanging out like as a group, and she noticed the shoes. And I was like, oh, those are like really nice. Like, so it's cool when people notice it as like it's not loud and in your face. Like the opposite example is I have a pair of them, I believe they're called McTavish from Allen Edmonds, that were the first Dublin leather shoes that Allen Edmonds made. And it was that is actually called chestnut. So it's like a straight up brown, like a lighter brown. But then they had this orange stitching on it with like a orange, like painted welt, which is kind of like super hideous, but I kind of like it now. But anyways, that's like too much for me. Like I want it to be more subtle, Yeah. By the way, you got a fan in the chat. Daniel Corrado says David's a great follow on Instagram. So props.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I think so like for me, I was very I really enjoyed kind of getting like the natural and like the even like color 4. Like there are some shades of color 4 that are more like toned down or like subtle than other shades, just maybe depending on like the batch, or maybe even like depending on like the direction that like the patterns cut. Um and At first like I didn't really like, I wanted the more like distinct look, and then like the more that I've like accumulated like more and more pairs of like color 4, like amaretto whiskey, I've come to like realize like I don't mind having that, but I don't want all of them to look like that. Otherwise, like you never have like that. You don't have like a variety, and you don't have just some like classic pairs that
You
can kind of fit in any situation. It's like you're always picking something that's standing out.
you said the word
And
that was in my mind, which is classics.
yeah,
There's something about like a long wing in color 8, just like
yeah.
that rules. It's just like so awesome.
The color 8, and I was looking at it the other, like the last pair of like I can't remember what the last pair of color 8 was. It started like where that's all that I had, and now I like don't have any left after kind of like going through that like sizing journey that everyone goes through. And I think like once I got that pair of color 6, like that was kind of like pushing me back in that direction of like more kind of like subtle classic, or just something that's not as kind of like in your face, and something that can kind of like fit in just like a lot of settings. It's not overly formal or overly casual, and I think kind of like leaning towards either color 8 or a pair of black shell.
Yeah, you and I have something, some contrasting taste, which is good because I think everybody's got their own unique thing. I tend to, I barely do anything to my boots and shoes, and even my wallets and stuff, or like watch band that I'm wearing. I just kind of let it go and see what happens. And I notice that people are kind of bummed out with me that I don't like polish it every day or whatever. I think you do a really nice job with a high shine. Is that something you like on just about everything?
I go through like phases of it. um, I enjoy doing it, but I definitely go through like phases because like part of what I enjoy about like shell versus calfskin is, and maybe it's just all in my mind just to kind of make shell more appealing to me, but it just seems easier. Like no matter what, like you could just brush the boots or the shoes, and they will get a higher luster than from just brushing a pair of calfskin boots or shoes. So like that's the one element of it. But then as soon as you like introduce like the high shine or even like a softer high shine, like it's not a mirror shine, but like it has something on it that could get scuffed and like look like it's no longer like well maintained. So I'll go through like phases of where I'll kind of put it on like all of the shoes, and then time where I'm like, this is like defeating the purpose. Like I don't need to do this. But yeah, I mean, I kind of prefer like somewhere in the middle.
Do
I
you
think just because realistically, like I don't know, sometimes I wonder if it just looks like ridiculous having like a mirror shine on like a pair of,
no,
like,
it's
boots or shoes.
I think it's honestly I think it's really neat because I know the amount of effort it takes to get. So I respect it. Like I said, to me it's like kind of the same sense of the natural shell being like really loud, or like those chestnut Dublin with like orange welting and orange stitching being like a little too forward. I feel like that's how the high shine stuff is to me. But also I like all my boots I just work in. I wear them all the time. I used to, walk many miles a day at a wet, damp tannery, lifting stuff, pushing stuff around. It's like I wear them and work in them, and I like beating them up like sort of naturally. I know. Well, this will sort of lead me into another question I had for you. I know there's a little bit of controversy that I hear people talking about with the stitch down patina Thunderdome. People sort of beating their stuff up like unnaturally and maybe unnecessarily. But
Yeah.
I guess two questions here. What do you think about that? And are you going to participate in the next Thunderdome here?
So I think so there's nothing wrong with like beating up a pair of boots in the sense of just like letting them kind of like go through their paces and not being like obsessed with having them always like looking their best to where you're caring for them like on a weekly basis, which you should provide like some care. But if you're just like constantly like shining them, I feel like that can be a bit like overwhelming. Um, but I think like the part that I've observed there is like the difference between like patina and just like lack of caring for the shoe. Like patina like develops.
I'm the
almost,
latter,
like,
by the
from,
way.
it like develops like sometimes like from caring for it. Like when you like introduce like those different like oils and waxes, like that kind of like develops the patina itself. Like I don't know if I guess like a deep like scratch or a scuff like is a form of patina, but I feel like that somewhat takes away from the boot more than just kind of like wearing it. If it happens, like it happens, but like I wouldn't necessarily be like aiming for that to happen.
Right.
um
Are you going to do the Thunderdome this season or whatever?
I thought about it, and I mean I guess you can do it like either way. I just don't know. I don't know like what I would pick to wear. I mean, 'cause you have to
That's the
like
hardest
wear it.
part.
It's got to be new, and you have to like wear it at least like a couple times a week if you want to have like any shot at kind of like keeping up with like the curve of everyone else that's in there. And um yeah, I don't know. I got a pair of unglazed
Nice.
natural shell boots last year, and I don't even know. So like that would have been like a good pair, I think, to wear for it. But obviously, like they're not new anymore, so like that doesn't work. But
Yeah. You're right though. It's a commitment. I did the you know what? If I'm honest, I wore them every day. The last time I wore the trench boots from Oak Street for the Thunderdome, and
how was
honestly,
that?
they're beautiful. I think they're cool looking. I was persuaded by people like yourself, and from what you just said, I was persuaded to do a little bit more product on my shoes. I only condition them. I conditioned them once with the product that I sell, which did some work on them. But I think to your point, and it's in fact George Vlagos, the owner from Oak Street, suggested to me before we even started. He said, if you want these to look really good, every week or two, put a little bit of Venetian on and brush them. I was like, oh sure, that's a good idea, and I just never did it. But I'm convinced now that I need to do a sort of routine, like a regiment, something to keep it up.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and like when I think like to your point there, like it doesn't necessarily mean like you have to use like a conditioner and like a cream polish and like a whole like overload of like product. I think it's just like a simple like conditioner that's like introducing some type of like hydration like to the leather, I guess, just so that it's continuing to like kind of absorb and like stay like
it does start to look
in
a little
state.
dried, right? Like a little dried out.
Right, and then like I feel like when that happens, like it stops the like natural antiquing of the boot. Like even if you like condition it, it doesn't make that an unnatural like patina. Like that's just, you had to care for the leather. I think it's like unnatural in the sense of like if you were to like paint on patina, like that would be like a little bit different than just like conditioning it. But yeah, I mean, I think
I've been appropriately persuaded to do that, and that's what I'm going to plan to do this next round. And so I was saying like a little bit of a negative about I think overall like the general idea of like, hey, let's all wear shoes and have fun and like talk about them and take pictures. I think that's awesome. Yeah. But I did start to feel like it was a chore, if I'm honest, because so it's just a stupid example. It's like sometimes it's a pain to like take your boots on and off over and over. Which it was turning into for me. So I would have to, and I still have to do it, take my daughter to daycare, and the place she was going to, when I was doing the Thunderdome, this was their COVID precautions. Like you had to take your shoes off when you went into the building. So I'd have to like carry an infant and like while I'm holding her, like unlace my shoes. It was just a pain in the ass. Yeah. So I just started like wearing sneakers that I just slipped on and off just because it was just making my life like easy.
Just add Velcro straps to the boots. Take the laces off.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that would win.
now, that's one of my like favorite. Like I'm kind of obsessed with like shoes like without laces. So like loafers, like Lazy Man, shoes. Like I love those. Like I don't know if I could have like enough of those. I only have 2, but
boat shoes were my move for that. Just slip them on,
Yeah, like it's kind of hard to I mean, like there are definitely times that you need to have like lace-up shoes or a lace-up boot, but between like Chelsea boots, loafers, like boat shoes, like a Lazy Man that like looks like a regular like dress shoe or an Oxford, like you don't have to deal with laces anymore.
Yeah,
and, like they are still like all proper shoes. Like,
all right, Grandpa, like you're gonna Velcro everything over there.
it like I don't know, maybe it's just like this kind of like the whole like COVID thing kind of like setting in at this point, but it's like, yeah, it's just so much easier to just like grab a pair of shoes, like slip them on and just go, not have to like sit down and like untie them, tie them back, and then.
You know what? I feel like the last time I did a live chat was with my brother Matt, who I don't know if you've met Matt, but he's great. And we had a live Q&A, and people were asking us for shirts and hats with our brand on it. And one of the ideas that I came up with after the fact, I was trying to think of ways to incorporate leather onto a shirt. And the challenge with putting leather on a shirt is it makes the shirt unwashable if you fix it permanently, like stitch it onto it. You can't really wash the leather with the detergent and still like make and have the leather be viable. So I was trying to brainstorm ideas for how to attach leathers to shirts and hats. And the idea of Velcro came about. And Velcro is so offensive to me that I won't do it. Like anything with Velcro, like even if it's like a cool sort of like tactical aesthetic of, how they put those like Velcro on backpacks and stuff. It's just like so offensive on like with shell. Like Mike K in the chat here is like Velcro per shell, please no.
I feel like, and that's actually something like have been like kind of curious about. So like the leather patches on the back of jeans. Obviously, like you don't wash jeans
That's a
as
really
much
good
as you like
question.
wash like a t-shirt, but I
I,
know that there's like Milburn. What is it? I'm gonna like get the name wrong, but Milboro or Milburn. Like there's a denim store. I think it's out. I think it's in Chicago. Uh,
Dearborn Denim. Mild
maybe
Blend is a store in
Mild
Chicago.
Blend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told you I was completely wrong.
They
But
sell the denim I wear. They sell all sorts of brands.
yeah, but and I think that they had uh, a number of years ago they had a pair of like Momotaro denim that had a shell patch on it.
I was involved in that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
So
was
like
about that was when Ashland started, because we wanted to make a companion natural shell Cordovan wallet with those. They were natural shell patches, but yeah, you can't wash. So there is an inside story there, but you're right. They did do a shell Cordovan patch, jean patch, which is not a good choice for jean patch because
I asked Momotaro if they would do it for me, and they just said no.
it's just a bad. I mean, you could do it. You know, you could make your own patch and just stitch it to the denim. But the problem is it's like your skin or your hair. You know, when you wash your hands, especially if it's cold outside or winter, or it's like really dry weather, your hands get chapped with the soaps because you're just pulling out the oils that are in your skin, and the same with your hair. So you use a lotion on your hands or like a conditioner in your hair. So it's the same issue in the washing machine. You're trying to pull out dirty things that tend to be like fats, and you're trying to pull them out of your jeans or your clothing. You're also pulling it out of the leather, which dries it out and makes it cracky, especially on the shell. And then furthermore, on the Cordovan is that it's very much not resilient to heat. So any sort of heat plus vegetable tan leather will make it cook. So if you're washing your clothes with a bit of heat, or you put it in the dryer for some odd reason, which you should never really do anyways, you'll make that leather crack and it'd be awful. Oh, Welted Wear says Shell Crow. Also, I saw some questions in here, which we'll go to in a minute. But there was a tannery that my business partner Dan worked at that's across the river from Horween. Secondary story here is that whole area where Horween leather is now. This whole strip was all tanneries. There was just hundreds of tanneries up and down in that area of the city, which now there's only one left. Anyways, the second to last tannery was where my business partner Dan worked at, and it was a tannery called Gutman. So Gutman actually had a specific tannage for a leather that was called jean patches. So there are specific leather tannages that are designed to be washed. Cordovan, Chrome Excel, basically everything that Horween does is not designed for that. I think they do own that formula. I think they bought it from Gutman, but they don't run it. That's not a product that they make. I think it's just such an inexpensive commodity leather now that the price they'd have to charge to make it is just nobody would ever buy it. But there is a particular tannage for jean patches. So to your point, most leathers are inappropriate for clothing, but there is a specific way to do it that is possible.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's interesting. Like it's obvious. It seems like so obvious. Like once you actually like say it out loud, but yeah. And what did the shell patches that were on those pairs of denim just like?
I don't know. I don't know anybody that owns them, but I remember doing that project, and Nick was the point person on it to connect the leather to Momotaro, and I know for a fact that Nick told them like, hey, like you can't do this, and they're like, we don't care. It was a good enough idea, right, that they just went forward with it, and I think they had to include a hang tag. Yeah, it's cool. I think they had to include a hang tag that said like, hey, you probably don't want to wash these, so you're going to be really gross. But yeah, there's a lot of disclaimers that go out on Horween leathers. The other one that I think of a lot is for Chrome Excel, which is very popular. There's it's kind of an inappropriate leather for most bags and backpacks and things like that, So I remember we made special hang tags to send to customers that were making bags that said something along the lines of, please use discretion when wearing this leather with light clothing because the color is going to rub off. So, and also Chrome Excel's crazy heavy. So if you're wearing like a really heavy duffel bag or backpack or something.
Yeah, um it's not Chrome Excel, but it's like a waxy like pull up um duffel bag that I have, and it definitely does. It does, like, just depending on like what it is that you're wearing, like if it's like rubs up against like the back of your leg, like you can tell that that's what was rubbing up against the back of your leg
Yeah, the color
when you
comes
look
right
at it.
off.
But yeah,
The other crazy thing is like all these jackets. A bunch of years ago at Ashland, we were thinking about making jackets. Oh, you linked me a mild blend product.
yeah, I found the shell patch.
Oh, let's see. Oops. I wonder if I can
That
show it
it?
on the screen here for people to see. I'm gonna cover up your face real quick. Let's see if this works. Where's the patch? Yeah, that's like a color 4. I think I actually made those.
It looks really good. I like it.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. I mean, it's a shell Cordovan.
Yeah.
The other thing about jackets. So like the thing people don't realize is that the sun is is really powerful. I mean, it's a ridiculous way to say it, but the sun is powerful, man. I don't know if you knew that. But UV light is really bad for most dyes. So fun story. If you ever heard of Shinola, is they make a lot of watches, wallets, bags, leather goods, bicycles. They make all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
And they had a duffel bag in this cobalt blue Essex leather, which is similar to the Dublin. The only difference is that the Essex doesn't have a wax coating on the surface. So one of these Shinola stores had that cobalt blue Essex duffel bag sitting right in the front display for like a year. And it was just getting blasted by the power of the sun. And one day they had a customer come in that saw that bag, and it was like kind of gray looking because it had been faded from the UV light. And
Yeah.
Shinola sent us the bag to Horway and said, like, we need this color. Like, what was this? And we're like, we don't really know. But the color, the sun will dramatically change the color of just about everything. So there are ways to combat that. So when we started making jackets for Ashland, which we don't do, and I don't think we're ever going to do, it's just we can't compete. It's so expensive. We developed a variation on a horsehide with it had like a silky top coat as well as an ultraviolet resistant top coat. So it would prevent your jacket from changing color. And I don't know if I haven't really seen Chrome Excel color fade too much, but I'd imagine if you left like or wore any jacket as like a motorcycle rider or just somebody that's outside a lot, I'd imagine your jacket's going to change color pretty dramatically. Have you ever had any shoes change like that?
Nothing that was like
People
nothing that
do the
wasn't, like,
sun
intentional,
fading.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, I've seen that. I don't have the patience for it. I tried it, and after like a couple days, I was like, "This isn't changing." I like put them back on the shelf. Um, but yeah, I mean, it definitely happens. Like, it's not like it's something that like you have to try and like prove if it's gonna work or not. Like, if you like leave them out in the sun, it's gonna become like lighter. I think. Yeah, I mean, I think like that example of the bag is kind of like the one extreme. Like, nobody's leaving like their jacket out. Like, you're obviously like always like moving around, but I think it's just something that it's like one of those like factors that you just kind of have to be aware of, like, as you're spending like more and more money on like leather goods. Is just like
Don't
knowing,
leave it
like,
in the window.
like, what it is that
Yeah.
like just understand like what those like characteristics could be, or like what you expect it to be, because like it's something that you could always like dye the leather, I guess, but that's just like a whole nother like, you know,
It's a
avenue
pretty
of
pretty
trying
big
to fix
skill.
it.
Pretty
Right,
big skill
and
to stain stuff.
yeah, I mean, I'd rather just like, I don't know, look for like the right type of leather instead of just like kind of going into it without um fully like understanding like what to expect like for that exact leather that I'm buying or kind of jacket. Uh, did you guys actually ever like sell them? Because I know I've seen like a few videos, and I don't know if I'm thinking of not even like a Ashland jacket, but it's like a very like light like tan
Yeah,
motorcycle jacket.
that's the one I made for if it's me and only me. It's like a I forget what like they're called. I'm not a huge jacket person, but it's a motorcycle like racing jacket, so it's cut really high and it's got the pockets, like kind of tight sleeves.
Yeah,
It's sort of tight everything. But yeah, that's made on a leather called Latigo on a horse hide, and it was a color called mock, and I put that UV top coat and a silky feel top coat on it. So it feels incredible. And then the coolest part was, and we're starting to do this now with the horse manes. The coolest part was cutting the horse mane down the backbone of the jacket so it looks like your horse or whatever. I thought it was super badass, and I still have it. It's
yeah,
awesome. But it's kind of like, it kind of reminds me of like the 70s or something. Like for some reason, the color of it being so light, it feels like I'm not cool enough to wear it. Like it's too hip or something, you know?
yeah. I was gonna say, and then I think you had said like there were questions in there, so like we can get to this. But I was gonna say like that's like a great example of a color that like I would be very like anxious for it to patina and darken because like it's great, but like it needs like I
It's
think
too
like
light.
I would be like more comfortable like if that was like a half a shade like darker, but not like fully like still having that same base, but then just having like that like aging look all over it.
I'll
Like
put it this way. It's I'm so uncool and that jacket is super super cool and like forward that it's the same reason with the shoes, like I can't pull it
yeah,
off, you know? I feel like I can't pull it off. So maybe that's like a reflection on my own psyche or something, you know? Like I just don't think I'm cool.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think like I've seen you like wear it and like I really like it and I've only seen it like with you wearing it, but I think like some of those are just you kind of have to like get comfortable and like when I got like a nicer leather jacket like 2 years ago maybe like it was like just having to be comfortable in it because I hadn't like worn that like style jacket in a while and it was like it just didn't feel like what I was like used to wearing and then like
Who
once
made
I
the
like wore
jacket?
it shot
Yeah, Shop
shot
makes cool stuff.
yeah it's really nice. I wish like I would have gone to the office or I would have gone to work outside of my house last winter. Could
Yeah,
have like
yeah.
worn it again.
And show off. You know what's crazy is and I don't know if they're doing it anymore, but Thursday Boot, I suppose it's true for all their stuff. The price you cannot I don't understand even how they're getting close to the price of what they're doing, how it's even possible. Cuz I think they were selling a Chrome Excel jacket for $300 or something like that, which they might still be doing. I remember looking again and they don't have it, which makes sense because I don't think it's like just the material itself is double that, or at least when I bought the material, maybe they're got some sort of hookup. It was so expensive just for the material, and then they were making it, which is like a lot of work also, and then they got to inventory it and sell it, and they were selling it for $300. Is like the deal of a lifetime, and that even the stuff that's not Chrome Excel is still pretty crazy to get a $300 leather jacket. And then
Like
the
a real,
reference
real.
point shot is like $2,000 or whatever, right?
I think it was like I think it's like $1,000 or something.
Yeah.
I think like those are like that's kind of like the cheapest, or like around like the cheapest options that they have. But yeah, I mean, I wonder sometimes like there's either like there's either got to be like some like corners that are cut, which not that's not like a always it has a bad like connotation, but that's it's not always a terrible thing because that's kind of how
Yeah.
things are done
Because
to like
people will
offer
buy a
like more
$300 leather jacket. They won't buy $1,000 one. You know, it
right.
gives them at least something. Which, by the way, I'm
Yes.
looking at it right now. It's $350, which is still like a crazy deal. I don't know how they even make it.
Yeah, I didn't even know that they sold jackets, but
Yeah, check it out, man. They look. I mean, they're not. They're classics. They're not. I suppose Shot's classic too, and all the other brands that I'm familiar with, like Arrow, they're pretty. They're things that you've seen before, which is probably what you want in a jacket. But they're just straight up. They're not. They're not crazy. They're just clean and simple. So for $350, like I don't. Again, I have no idea how it's even possible to make it for that.
yeah.
And then again, they're
Yeah.
the place selling, sub $200 leather boots, Goodyear welted, and sorry, I'm just peeking their site right now. I've actually never owned Thursday stuff, and I think what I like most about them is how they have opened the door to most people into this world, because even friends of mine that don't know anything about leather or anything about boots, they got into it through Thursday. So I have a lot of respect for them for that.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the jackets like they look nice, and like the same thing with like the boots that I think like you were, uh, just kind of like covering where there's something that they are able to do, whether it's like whatever it is to actually like make it possible to use higher quality materials than you would normally find like at a price point. Um, the
Yeah, it's
one
crazy.
the only pair of like Thursday boots that I've had experience with, I got my brother a pair of them, and he like really just like not like abused them, but wore them a lot, and like they became like unrepairable very quickly
Really?
in like
They couldn't
a year and a
resole
half.
them, or was it not the sole
It
that
was
failed?
it was kind of like the lining and the insole, and it was just like it would have been very like labor intensive to have like a cobbler like work on it. Like you probably could have, but
And how much did he wear
um
them, you said?
probably like 4 times a week
For like more than a year.
for like a while. Yeah.
That's pretty good, if I'm honest. So,
Yeah, so I mean like it's not terrible, but like I think uh like it seemed like that it like got to like the point of on like the cusp of getting there like very quickly, and then kind of like teetered until it was just like I need a new pair, I got him or I don't know if I bought them or if I just uh like pointed them towards like Taft boots,
yeah.
and they were definitely more expensive, but they were like significantly like higher quality like overall, which
How do you figure?
like they were like more money, but I think like the um just like the welt where like the welt and the upper come together, and like the bottom, it just had like if you held them like side by side, you could just tell like it was cut a little closer. It was just a little bit more of a like leather type feel on it. Not that like Thursday like wasn't leather, but sometimes you can just feel like it has a little more like grain character in it, and
Hmm.
I think like probably just like the difference maybe in like what the cost is that you're paying for, because I think it was probably $150 more than Thursday is, but um
How long did those last him?
I think he still has them, and I
He's
mean
still going.
yeah, it's been like just as long as the Thursdays, but
I'll give a point of
um
reference for you, because we were talking about Thunderdome, and I was wearing the natural Chrome Excel trench boots every day, and mine had a leather sole. I wore through the soles in 6 months. I mean, and I think Oak Street's perceived to be pretty good quality. I think the soles that they choose, the outsoles that Oak Street chooses, along with Wolverine 1,000 Mile boots, their leather outsoles, I think are wimpier. So I think it depends on the brand. Like each brand's can, sure, George at Oak Street could put on whatever outsole and make it thicker. But I think
yeah.
there's a compromise also with comfort, because I noticed like that's crazy, because the trench boots with the thin outsole, the 1,000 Mile boots with the thin leather outsole, so comfortable. But I think that the trade off is they just wear out, you know?
Yeah, I
Anyways,
feel
there's
like
6 months though is the point of reference I wanted to give. Because your buddy was wearing them for a year plus, which seems pretty good.
Yeah, I was gonna say leather outsoles, like especially I think if you're in the city,
Yeah, yeah, a lot of
you could like
concrete.
wear through those pretty quickly.
Yeah, it was surprising, like shockingly quick. Because then I look at my day night stuff. I have 2 pairs of day night, and like you can't even tell that they're worn. It's crazy.
Day night is I don't know.
It's invincible.
I've slipped on day night more than like I've slipped on like a leather sole.
Yeah, that's
It's
also
it's
true.
very it's very like it's just a hard like rubber. Like
Yeah,
Vibram is I mean I think I only have experience with like Vibram and day night, so it's not a huge like sample size here. But I think Vibram has more like uh just traction,
like the
even
big
in like
big
a
lug soles.
comparable. Yeah. Like they have that and they have like great like topi or like half soles that there's a whole bunch of like different patterns and they just seem to be like indestructible.
Hmm.
Like if you just cover your leather sole with that, like you still get like the look and feel of a leather sole with like, a couple millimeters of rubber on top of the heel and half sole and
I
it'll
think
like
half sole's
last.
the move, right? You get the flexibility of the leather sole, but then the traction and
Yeah.
durability of something else, and the low profile too. I think that's like the commando sole that Alden does, right?
Yeah, that's like that's
Oh, that's nice. Oh, cool.
yeah, that's I do that like on all my um basically any like new pair if the maker like offers that.
That
That's what I'll
seems to
do.
be the
'Cause
move.
it just like eliminates any like not that like I have way too many shoes to the point where I'd need to have them resold, but it just like eliminates the need to like worry about if it's like, wet out. Should I like pick a pair that has a leather sole or it's just they all like look like they're leather soles, but it doesn't matter.
I have a bit of news for you and other people. So I'm wearing. We were talking about the Thunderdome. I'm wearing. I've decided this year to go with 2 different pairs. One of which I've decided, and it actually picked up and actually swapped the size already. So last time I was doing the trench boot from Oak Street. This time I'm going to do a field boot from Oak Street. And it will also be the first time I've worn like a nice boot that's not Horween. So right now on their site you can find them. It's the limited edition cap toe field boot in natural horse rump, and it's Miriam horse butt. It's pretty nice. If I'm honest, the leather looks pretty nice. It'd be interesting to see how it wears in. But it kind of reminds me of a combination of the horse butt strips that Horween makes and the Essex, like a combination of those two. It's like very supple, like surprisingly flexible for something that is veg tanned. I'd be surprised if it was pit tanned, the Miriam stuff. Like that is a pit tan leather with that amount of flexibility, I'm very impressed. Because usually that pit tan stuff is like really, really dense and sort of boardy. But anyways, the reason I thought of them was he put these Goodyear Chemigum half soles on them. Have you ever heard of this? Are you looking at them?
Yeah, I'm trying to
I'll link it, man.
yeah,
Here.
say that like chrome pack trench boot. Looks
That
pretty
chrome pack
nice.
was. I was actually considering that, and he said he didn't have my size. Oops. I would have done
Oh,
it. That chrome pack is a crazy print texture in it.
yeah, that's
Have you heard of this
that's
Goodyear Chemigum half sole? I think
it
it's
reminds
dead stock that they don't make.
yeah, it reminds me of the Doctor Soles. Have you seen those that are
Yeah,
on like some of the more like uh
I
more
have.
like handcrafted like Indonesian boots and Southeast Asia boots and stuff like um and I think like Brian the bootmaker has like his own version of it or I don't know what it's called, but that's what it reminds me of. And I don't know, like I think like that's like I like the look
Yeah, it's cool, man.
of how that is.
So that's one I'm picking up. And I'm going to derail us very quickly because Mike K has had a couple good questions here, and one of which is directed to you. Mike K says, David, are you into dress or heritage footwear? Are you more into?
Um, so definitely more on the dress versus like workwear. Is that
Yeah,
did
that's
I
the
like
thing.
lose my words there? Workwear. Yeah. I definitely can appreciate like the workwear stuff, but uh, I just am not as kind of like familiar with all the various options besides kind of like the normal, um, like the Vibergs or some of the brands that are probably like popular on Instagram. I'm just more familiar with like the dress boot and dress shoe side. The and sorry, what was there a second piece to that?
The other question he had is probably just more of a general question. He asked much earlier. Said, when dark color shell scuffs, does it usually reveal a lighter color underneath, or does the dye usually penetrate the whole leather given its tight grain pattern? I think that's a good question. I have an answer for it, but do you want to give your experience on the darker color shells when you scuff them? Is there sort of that T core like lighter undertone from your observation?
I think the so if it gets deep enough, yes. Um, I think you can definitely like scuff if it's just like a scuff and it's not actually like scratching the surface away. The scuff like you could like kind of rub out with like your thumb, and it would like darken right back. But if it's actually like uh a scrape or like you kind of like hit your toe on like a curb or something, like that will reveal the undyed part of the shell maybe. Not not to like where it's unrepairable, but you'll notice a difference in the color.
That's correct in my experience too, because Mike is a really good question too. All at least at Horween, so I won't speak for other tanneries, and I have seen in person something called a drum dyed or a mill dyed piece of shell cordovan. Horween's shell cordovan, which is my experience, they only make what is called a natural base, or what they call it a crust, like a natural crust color that looks exactly like a raw natural shell or unglazed natural shell, or even like a normal natural shell. It's like that really light tan shade. And they'll take that and they'll start with that for every color. So even something like a black starts off that shade, or like a garnet starts off that shade. That's the color that as it comes out of the pits where it's been pit tanned with all those tree barks, that's just the natural color it turns. So you can layer on different stains on the top. But like David is saying, once you scrape away that surface stain, it does penetrate a slight amount. The dyes are what are known as penetrating dyes. They'll penetrate down a little bit, but it only goes so far. So if you were to take the cross section of a piece of black shell, you would see like less than a millimeter depth of black on the top, natural on the bottom, and you'd see like this green on the underside of it. And that's the case for all the shells. You'll have that sort of sandwich of color because after they brush the stains on, they dip it in a barrel of water, and the dyes migrate around in the barrel and sort of stain the unintended backside of the leather too. So, simply answer your question is you will see color if you go very deep, just like David said, but a really light scuff, you tend to not see it in my experience. The other crazy thing too is those dyes seem to be pretty mobile. So like if you even apply like a little bit of water and just sort of like cloth rub it, the color kind of transfer and like fill itself in, which is really neat.
Yeah, I think that's so like that's without going down a rabbit hole here. That's like one of the other like key reasons that like I feel like I'm comfortable to like fix shell cordovan like scuffs and scrapes like that where like calfskin like I'm not that from I wouldn't know what to do other than just kind of like rubbing it with like your thumb or like a fingertip, and with shell it feels like you can
You kind of do
fix
whatever
like
you want.
yeah it'll look like it's kind of was never there after a couple of minutes of doing that more often than not. So like it's just
Yeah.
kind of the ease of comfort with it. But
It's got its negatives too. Like I don't
yeah,
so well that's the thing. I picked these different non-Horween boots, and the other one I picked is from Grantstone, they're gonna send me a couple pairs to try out. One of which is an Essex leather from Horween, and another is like he said it's like a boar hide or something So there's potential that I might be wearing two non-Horween boots for the Thunderdome, and I want to wear them to let people realize like I don't only love Horween, I just love leather. It just so happens that I'm like neighbors to Horween and I work there and I know a lot about it. So, anyways, I'm not against other leathers too, but there's sort of a downside with the Cordovan and the Chromexcel. Most veg tan leathers tend to dent, scuff, and scratch really easily,
Yeah.
and that's certainly a negative of Cordovan. Like you can dent it, you can scratch it, you can scuff it. But the flip side of that is that, like you said, it tends to be a little bit more easily repaired. Just tends to like wear better. Where like I feel like the calf stuff that I've experienced seems to feel, not only does it like feel delicate, but it also it's like you kind of have to treat it a little bit more delicately. Like you can't kick it around, you know?
Yeah, I think like you can. I think the
Because it depends on the leather tannin
yeah,
shoe, right?
yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's like a tough call because like depending on like how you look at it, like calf skin is more durable in certain um certain characteristics than like shell is, but uh I think also depending on like the type of leather, like that can change. I think the shell, like the benefits, I guess for me with like shell, like outweigh like the negatives with it, but like it's not like a flawless leather. Like there are definitely
No,
like
yeah.
characteristics that can be problematic, but I think overall when um if I was, picking out a shoe that like I really want to be able to wear a lot, I just enjoy wearing the ones that are shell more than the ones
Really.
that aren't shell.
You make me want to
Yeah.
wear my shell boots more often. I notice I gravitate towards Chromexcel. I don't know what it is. But, I mean, I have the pair of shell. It's just I don't know. Sometimes it just like feels a little too much. Maybe it's because of that natural color. It's just like so loud. Uh,
Yeah, I'm
I don't
looking
know.
at like Grant Stone right now. I've never had a pair from them, but like
They're nice.
looking at like the natural, what is it? Well, it's honey glazed. I guess that's natural, maybe.
I don't.
Um,
I think it is. You're
but
probably
like
right.
that compared to like the Maduro shell, I feel like more people would like lean towards like the honey glaze because of that, like the lighter color. But I think like the Maduro is,
It's easier to wear. Yeah.
yeah.
I just in my experience. So like right now, the only one that's still available is the plain toe boot
I
in the natural looking color.
didn't even notice that.
That's all. Everything else is sold out. I mean,
Yeah,
there is something about it that like this. And what Brett from Alden told me was like you need a little something on the toe for the light colors, which makes sense because I'm looking at the Maduro plain toe and it looks incredible. And there's just something about the natural that's like strange feeling. It doesn't make any sense.
yeah. It's
I don't know
I
what
mean
it is.
it definitely makes sense. Like the a plain toe can, it like is really like elegant looking, but I think it can become uh less so like depending on just like how well like it fits or like the creases and rolls kind of like set
Yeah.
in, and like if you have like an apron or a cap toe, like there's something to like control it, whereas like without it it can um turn from a very like simple vamp and toe to kind of not as simple, but like
Yeah.
the apron and like the darker shades kind of provide some like cover, I guess, for that, whereas like the natural, like it's not there.
So I'll speak out of both sides of my mouth here because I'll link you this. I ordered the brass boot in tan Essex. I'll drop this in the chat too. So I ordered this as a potential Thunderdome pair. I guess I'll drop it in the our live chat also. So I ordered a pair of those two, which is the same problem, right? Like too light. But I was kind of thinking along the lines of Thunderdome, like, okay, I want to see this change. And I feel like the Essex is sort of the ultimate for that. And I kind of like this mock toe that they got going on. I think this is their response to something like the indie boot, which although this mock toe is different. And the soles are like crazy thick. So I thought it would be a good like winter thing. So I ordered these and then they called me and said, hey, we got something else coming out soon that's like not available yet that we want to send you. Maybe you'll like it more. So they're sending me something else too. But whatever I pick from Grantstone, I'm going to be wearing in addition to the Oak Streets too. So, because I don't know if you looked at that Oak Street, that natural horse butt, they call it horse rump. It's like really, really awesome looking. It's really nice. So I'm kind of excited to see how that wears in, because if it wears in well, like that's a pretty strong performance against most of the Horween stuff. Because I don't think Horween
really
makes
cool,
a competing product.
yeah, it's got like a really cool like figuring to it.
Yeah. The horse butts tend to have that. And I'll link
Yeah.
that in the chat too for everybody. Oops, sorry, I muted myself. I'm going to mute myself while I type. It's so loud. Like, listen to this. It's just too much. All right, I'm going to link the anybody that wants to see the cap toe field boots and natural horse rump. I'm linking them. And I did have two pairs. I bought a pair from them in size 10, which was the same size I had in the trench boot from Oak Street, and it didn't fit as nicely in my arch. And I asked them, hey, like, I see you don't have this any other size available. And I just so happened they had somebody return a 10.5, which fits me great. The reason I bring that up is because from the two pairs I had, you're mentioning the green character and that sort of figuring. It's like wildly different from pair to pair. And actually, that's why they were returned, is because the return pair that fits me nicely, one of the toes is really wrinkly looking and the other one's like pretty flat and smooth. So somebody hated that and sent it back. I think it looks neat. But anyways, you're right. Yeah. Like, it's very inconsistent.
Yeah, I mean, I think like that's just like kind of like part of the leather, and it's not. And maybe that goes back to like the characteristics, where it's like, if you like that color, but like you want something that's really consistent, like that's just not like the leather then to go with. Like, they have other leathers in that same shade, but
yeah,
I'm really surprised with like the variety of leathers that I see here
for both brands, right?
Like Grantstone and Oak Street. Like, I mean, it's been a while since I've like looked at these, but last time it seemed like it was all just like variations of Chrome Excel.
Yeah, I don't know if I should take any credit for that. I want to pretend that I had something to do with it, but I don't think I did. I think these guys understood the same thing that I did. We do private stock, so every now and then I'll be able to buy something that's incredibly unique, and it doesn't really fit like into my product line. So I call it, they call it limited releases. I call it private stock. It's a really great way to make something special, and it has a couple side effects. Like, number one, it makes your customers happy and you can make people things that are special and unique, one-offs. But it also gives you a chance, and I should do more of it, of like posting on Instagram, for example. Like, whoa, have you seen this unique thing that nobody's ever seen before? It gives you a reason to like get attention, as opposed to if you're just making like brown Chrome Excel plain tone boots over and over. It's kind of boring. Your Instagram just looks flat. Right. Yeah. So this is a way for them so they'll make the hits like we do, like English Chain Dublin, Johnny the Fox. They'll make that all day. And then we'll have like a crazy marbled cigar or something with like crazy stitching. It just makes something a little bit more special, something you can't get all the time. And that's what they're doing here. The other sort of inside baseball, the inside scoop here is Horween is really backed up right now. It's sort of a consequence of the pandemic. So a lot of these brands they want to make stuff out of Horween. They just can't. They can't even buy the leather if they wanted to. So when I was speaking to, and it's even me, like I can't buy it. Like right now I have to wait almost a year to get leather for belts, which is a huge problem. And it's the same with Oak Street. He ordered leather late summer last year, hoping to get it to make boots for that holiday season 21, and he still hasn't gotten it. They're just like so far behind. Leather? Yeah, for Chrome Excel in particular, just really long lead times. So it's really sad, but that's a reason that you're starting to see some of these other things come about, and which is great too, because like I'm trying out something new, probably because they couldn't get some other Horween thing. So it'll be fun, for me to try something new, and maybe everybody else. It's kind of a bummer for Horween. Like, I think they make some of the nicest stuff, but that's not to say other people can't do it too.
Yeah.
Like this chrome pack is pretty funky. I kind of like it.
Yeah, it's just
The 10 BB chrome pack. I guess I'll link this in there too with the
like
Christie
the
sole.
variety of leathers that I'm seeing and like the variety of like tanneries. Maybe it's just again like I haven't like checked in a while, but it seems like there's a lot more overlap between like some of the small tanneries kind of like finding their way into these brands now, like Shinky and what was the
Miriam.
Miriam? Yeah, like ones that you would normally see on those kind of like independent, like really small like shoemakers or like leather workers. And
It's because they don't
now
make
like
a
they're
lot of shell or leather shell, let alone shell. Like even Horween, all these tanneries are so small and niche that they're never going to make a lot of stuff. So most of the world will never know who they are, which is fine. But they're not. They're niche specialty leathers. You know.
yeah, Shinky makes a horse butt. Maybe it's the one that is this the one that, no, that's Miriam.
Yeah, I
But
picked up the
Shinky makes
Miriam
one
one.
that has like such strong like figuring in it. Um I don't there's something about it that like I would like love to try it. And I
It's
can't.
cool, man. I'll send you a picture of my boots when I they're at my shop right now. But that's something that's sort of inherent to all of the like lower like the horse butt area of that animal. Like and the reason you don't see a lot of it. So imagine if your Thursday boot and you want to make a run of horse butt. It's the same problem that Oak Street had with the pair they got returned. You're never going to make the same pair twice because they're so wildly different. You just
Yeah.
can't mass market the thing.
Yeah, and then you have to just deal with the whole like return situation, which I mean that's another topic, but like
What a
you're
disaster.
introducing that into the equation when um it wouldn't be there if you had leather that's like more uniform or just more consistent, I guess. But
Right. Even
uh
like a brown Chrome XL is like pretty straight up, you know. It's special, but it's consistent. And I'm gonna have to I gotta get running here, David. I
oh
do
yeah,
have some small announcements for you and the rest of the world. And some people have heard this before, but um I did start a podcast with Nick Horween. It's not out yet, but I'm so excited. We had our first guest. It was a pretty big get for our first guest. We had Brett Viberg on, and he was really insightful about a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about tonight, too, including you were talking about the difference between some of the workwear and more the dress wear type of things. We kind of pushed him on some things that I think a lot of people wanted to know about. So I'm like so excited for people to hear this. But we have 4 episodes that are recorded. So my hope is to have a release like 3 of them at once, hopefully in the next week or 2, and then have like a weekly schedule. It's been so hard to like coordinate times with Nick. So Nick Horween and I would get like sit right next to each other right here in this room, and it's been really difficult the last 2 weeks just even to get him to come in. So we've got other people want to interview, like the Grant Stone and Oak Street people. Is there anybody that you think I should have on to interview, David? Here's the thing: what I've noticed. Sorry to interrupt. After I asked you a question, I find it fascinating to interview people that you don't know who you may not know who they are, but you certainly know the things that they have done. So is there like maybe put it in a better way? It's like, is there a brand that you would love to hear from, like their designer or like their person that sources leather or their CEO or something like that?
the and I don't even know. Maybe you know. Like, but the first one that came to mind was like Lorenzo from Soul Garb. Have you ever
I don't
known
know
him?
him.
He is so he does like all the like domestic orders in the U.S. for Enzo Bonifay,
Mm-hmm.
and like has just endless kind of like runs of different
Maybe I could just talk to
shell
Bonifay.
Cordovan. He's like he's old, like almost like in his hundreds. Like he's pretty old.
He'd
But
never be into a Zoom call, huh?
I think he actually apparently, well, maybe like you can confirm this with Lorenzo, but I think Enzo may still do some of the work for the shell boots, for
Wow.
the shell orders. He doesn't do it the others, but I think he does something with the shell ones. But either way, like Lorenzo, I had never like talked to him other than like on Instagram, and we were actually like doing like this, like the group made to order for this Zug leather,
Yeah.
and he called, like we had a quick call, and it turned into like 3 hours of him like telling me like how he got into this business, and it was like, I mean, like I don't really stay on the phone for like 3 hours
It was
for like
awesome.
anything. It was really interesting. Um, so like, and he's obviously like working with like a very like uh established like shoemaker from Italy, as well as his like relationship with Horween. So he's got like a lot of different pieces there. As far as outside of that, or like beyond him, there's nothing. I mean, there's plenty of names that come to mind, but like nothing that I feel would kind of be like
Yeah, like
a
huge
good
person you want
fit.
to hear from.
Yeah, I mean, like there are people that like I've already, like there are people like I've already like seen kind of whether it's talk with uh like Jesper or like other like YouTube like channels like that, some of those like names kind of like come up, like Carmina, like Carmina
Right.
from Carmina, like she's been on like a few like videos and like channels and stuff, and trying to think of like something that's like different than, I mean, I'm sure like it still like reaches a completely different audience, but something that's just kind of like in the same realm, but kind of has a less well-known like story or
Mm-hmm.
kind of like perspective to like lend to it. Um, hmm,
Yeah. Well, hey,
I want,
if you think of people, because the Lorenzo
yeah,
one's a good idea. That's really good. But I'd appreciate the help too, because like
yeah,
we have a list of people. I don't think Lorenzo was on there, but sort of like industry people. Like I said, for simple example is there was a hide buyer at Horween that is since retired. He's been retired for about a decade now, and he worked there for like 50 years. So this guy was buying hides, in the 50s and 60s. I think talking to somebody like that, getting a perspective from decades ago would be really interesting. So I'm trying to find those people, like you
yeah,
don't know them, but like it'd be incredible to hear those stories. Like what was it like, making stuff back then?
yeah. It's a great point. Like the obvious question is just like the quality of like the leathers,
Yeah.
or just like the nature of like interacting, and like how like obsessive everybody is with like the aesthetics of it today. Like there obviously was not the uh environmental factors of like
Oh yeah, yeah.
social media
Certainly some
kind
better
of
things too.
contributing to that.
I'm gonna end this on a really sad note. I was talking to George,
Fantastic.
George from Oak Street. They do some hand sewn stuff, and people like you would know this for sure. But most of the hand sewns in the world, actually, I'm not sure about the world. The United States, there's only one place in the United States that's really making hand sews. It was Maine. And I was talking to George this week. It sounds like Maine is dead as a footwear industry, which is talking about perspective of time is like incredible to think about, because Maine was sort of like the international center for shoe manufacturing for a long time, and now it's gone. So that was some sad news that I got from him today, and I guess he's really struggling with hand sews, like getting moccasins and things like that. There's just not people that can do it, and people don't seem to want to learn, and which
Yeah.
is fine. I mean, it's just the way it is. He told me there's a big demand for hand sewn, like mock toe, boat shoe type things, but nobody's doing it. And that was a real eye opener for me, thinking about Maine and how that has really just gone away. It's kind of a bummer, man.
Yeah. That's now everyone have a good weekend.
Yeah.
Because you're basically like
Well,
the center of the shoemaking world from the United States is gone. Have a good weekend.
yeah. I
um
mean, where is it now? Wisconsin? I mean, Wisconsin was pretty big. Pacific Northwest, Washington, Oregon. Um, I don't know. It's just like, it's just so different from the way it used to be.
yeah. And I think like the the trades, just like the trades world of kind of like learning a trade versus kind of like going into like business or something. I think is still more, I guess like prevalent like in Europe, or like if you want to like learn shoemaking, like there's like courses and there are people that are going
Really?
over there to do it, but um there's just not that many. There's like one or two of those schools I think here, but um
Maybe the
yeah, I
truth
mean
of it is that people don't necessarily, the mass amount of people don't necessarily appreciate, the types of shoes that we like. I think
yeah,
people are really into sneakers and canvas shoes and that type of stuff. This might be a lot of it.
yeah, it's probably a mix of all of those, but
Yeah.
it's
Well, have a great week.
it's a true way to end the Friday night.
I'm really glad that you reached out, man. And I'm sorry that it took so long to do this. I've been like just so crazed. My daughter, the reason I was late tonight, my daughter had something I'm going to name it. I'm going to call it a back crap, because she crapped so hard. It just like went all the way up her back. So it took me a little longer to like wash that off. I literally did the dad move of like hosing her down. Like I put her in the shower and just like did the hand spray and just like, or like you're getting hosed. It was so disgusting. So that took me a little longer to get here. But
That's all right.
I had a good time, man. I really appreciate doing this with you, and I'd like to do it again if you wanna bother me again.
Yeah, no, for sure. This was I say this was great, and we definitely try to make a habit of it.
Yeah, man.
Like once a month, something like that.
Yeah, let's do it. I gotta bail for now. I'm
Yep.
so hungry. I gotta eat dinner.
Yeah.
But everybody else, I appreciate you guys hanging out, and hopefully you enjoyed chatting with David here. I certainly had a good time. And yeah, we'll be back again. Maybe we'll announce it next time so people can get in here live and we can do like it seemed like Mike K and some other people had some great questions for you. And we invented the term shell crow. So, but everybody else, I thank you guys for hanging out.